Imagine a world in which Ukraine is the most important thing to you in your country in order that you don't have to go directly to war with a very violent, virtually unreasonable foe with a huge military. Imagine that world. Because it is not that far away. It's not that far from now. And you may be one of these people who thinks, why do we care about Ukraine? Who cares about Zelensky and Ukraine? Why do I personally and my country, why do we give a shit? Why are we getting involved in somebody else's war where there is no tangible, immediate benefit to us here? You must be one of these people who are very intelligent and well connected and well advised now, but too young to remember when Russia was a military threat to your country. But I'm not. I'm just about old enough to remember when Russia was a legitimate military threat to my country. And I remember the reason that they were pulled back into their place and why they had to start negotiating and being peaceful, or at least pretending that they were, in the first place. It was because of America. It was because America, despite being heavily criticised, spent billions of dollars and months of negotiation, despite the fact the rest of the world really came down hard on them and weren't enjoying the show. America were the ones that put Russia in their place and made sure that Russia didn't invade Europe, and that the only aggressions that they were able to accomplish were under the table. But things have changed. Things are very different in today's world. And we know Russia now have allies in Iran, Syria, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Jordan, North Korea, China. All the belligerent nations which would like nothing more than our countries turn to dust and slaves and food-producing servants of the communist regime in China and also Russia. That's what we're looking at. So, now that we understand why Ukraine is important, especially if you're European or British like myself, you will understand this. Between the military machine of Russia, the communist militarized state of Russia, and democratic free Europe, and Britain, with all its problems, it's still a democratic free piece of land with nations who are separate. Between those two entities, stopping them from directly clashing in a physical conflict using nuclear weapons is Ukraine. Ukraine is the only barrier between that conflict happening. And that is why, ladies, gents and Pikachus, aid and support and military funding will continue to flood into Ukraine, whether or not you agree or you like it. And it's because if Ukraine were to lose this war to Russia and Russia were to completely take over the entire Ukrainian country, within a few years they would be looking past the border of Ukraine. And what is past the border of Ukraine? Central Europe. So then Russia would be on the border with Central Europe and there would be no dividing barrier. And America would then be spread too thinly because they'd be fighting China, North Korea, they'd be fighting Iran, Syria, Egypt, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, and they would be fighting France, Germany, Poland, Belarus, Britain. You don't think these nations could stand up to Russia without Ukraine, do you? You are deluded if you think that. But I know you're not. I know you are intelligent and well informed. Even though you may be young, you can take the experience of someone slightly older than you, and you can add it to the information that you get from the internet, and you can make the correct judgment, as I am asking you to do, that even though it isn't directly in your interest to support Ukraine's war against Russia, and there's no immediate tangible benefit for you or your country if Russia were to fail. In the long term, looking at the long-term game, in the bigger picture of things, if Russia were to beat Ukraine and dominate that whole country, all the resources of Russia, the Crimea, and having a border with Central Europe, controlling the oil pipes completely because most of them go through Ukraine at the moment. No one thinks of that. We don't have oil production facilities here. We're not allowed to use coal, and we don't produce any gas. So 85% of this country's entire heating supply of fuel comes from Arab states in oil, which we don't like to use, or it comes from gas through Ukraine. Now, do you think that Russia will be happy to sell us that as cheaply as the Ukrainians? Or are you happy to pay 4, 5, 6 times the amount for your heating every winter? Or alternatively, leave it in the hands of the Labour government and watch 30% of this country starve and freeze to death in the winter, which is what would happen if we let Keir Starmer and his Stalinist goons control our energy prices while they are cutting state benefits. So the bigger picture condensed, the conclusion is this: while you might not care about Russia, while you might think Trump was being arrogant and loud-mouthed and an idiot and should have let Zelenskyy speak, the points we have to remember are this: Ukraine cannot lose this war with Russia. Everybody is aware of that who knows anything. If Russia beat Ukraine and expand into the Crimea and rush into Ukraine fully, then the next target is Central Europe and Britain, France, Germany, Poland, these countries. And they will not be able to stand up to the combined might of China, Russia, North Korea and Islam, who are the Eastern powers, the axis of evil, even with American backing. And that is the reason why Trump, although he took a very hard stance, is going to ultimately back Ukraine. And that is the reason why he was being such an arrogant prick in his meeting with Zelenskyy. It's goalposting. He knows this is what Ukraine want, and this is what he's willing to give. And he knows Ukraine are going to come this far in and meet him here. So instead of going in to meet him at the early stages, he pulls all the way back and he puts the goalpost here and says, you have to come closer if you want a deal, because you need a deal, otherwise Russia will beat you. It's tactics. And eventually Ukraine will come a little bit closer, and then Trump will come in to meet him in the middle. And that is how this will be solved. So Trump's actually a genius for doing that, as much as I hate to say that. And I know people aren't going to like to hear it. What you have to realise is Trump is negotiating, and it is day one. Now, I can tell you, if you are any kind of a subtle, good negotiator, you don't spread all your cards out on the table on day one and say, take your pick, because guess what will happen? They will scoop up all your cards and take them all and go home, and you will leave with nothing. So what has Trump done? He has said, no, you have to come in towards me. You have to offer me something. I'm the one giving you all the money. My military aid is going to win you the war, and without it you lose. So you have to come into me. And the only reason Zelenskyy is not coming in, despite his brilliant acting, his virtuous performance of making out like he's a soldier. Come on, don't fool yourself. Zelensky's never fired a shot. He has not been a soldier. He is an actor turned politic. An actor turned politician. This guy knows how to get the fucking eyes going. There isn't a dry eye in the house when Zelenskyy is on the stage. Trump is aware of this and is saying, come closer and meet me here, then we will make a deal. And it was perfect. I am absolutely happy with what happened. So here's what's going to happen, in my humble opinion. Several months more will pass. Several 100,000 Ukrainians may well die. Zelenskyy will make more excuses and play tough, like Trump said. The only reason he's able to play tough is because of American backing. And the only reason that American backing exists, which Zelenskyy is well aware of, is because if Ukraine were to lose this war then Russia would become an immediate military threat to Europe, Britain and America, and that would take resources and focus away from the main threats they are actually trying to fight, the proxy leaders, Iran and China. And if that happens, we really are screwed. So, that's the end of this video. I hope you have learned from and enjoyed what I've told you. God bless you all, and I'll see you lovely people in the next one. Bye now. It's all fun and games until someone loses an Ayatollah, which is exactly what's happened. So let's keep an eye on what happens with Russia, Ukraine and the Middle East, and whether we can regain peace here in the West. God bless you all, and I'll see you next time. Bye now.